Welcome to Valley Home Vibes, the podcast that's all about the sizzling hot real estate market right here in the Valley of the Sun. I'm your co-host, GT Campanile, joined by co-host Kevin Price and Laurent Abitbol. We're thrilled to have you join us today as we delve deep into the captivating world of real estate right here in Phoenix, Arizona. Whether you're a local Phoenician or someone considering a move to this desert oasis, Valley Home Vibes is your ultimate guide to everything you need to know about buying, selling, and investing in this vibrant market. This week, we'll discuss the buy-side transaction process. We'll look at the home buying process from the standpoint of the buyer. In a future episode, we'll also discuss the transaction from the point of view of the seller. Before we get into it, let's cover the market. And without further ado, here's our weekly update.
All right, let's take a look at the numbers here for the sales per month. So far into October, we are at 2,092 for all of the greater Phoenix area. And last month in September, we finished at around 5,150. So not too bad at all. And then if we focus just on the Buckeye, Goodyear, and Litchfield Park area, we are at 117 sales so far. And last month in September, we finished at 300. And the average cumulative days on market for the Phoenix area is right around the 60-day mark. That's pretty much where we were at last month as well. It's been ticking down throughout the year. And right now we are right around the 60-day mark for the Phoenix area. And if you look over at the Buckeye, Goodyear, and Litchfield Park numbers, actually we have jumped up from last month. Last month we were at 61 days. And right now we are closer to 70 days on market. But that's just Buckeye, Goodyear, and the Litchfield Park area. And an interesting number that I saw was for the monthly median sales for all of the Phoenix Met. It's at $435,000 median sales price. And that is up from last month. And actually that is up for most of that's up since November in the Litchfield, Goodyear, and Buckeye area.
All right. Thank you very much, Kevin. Really appreciate that update. All right. Let's move on to a update in the mortgage and finance sector. So here's what's happening in the mortgage and interest rate areas. So we're going to cover a little bit of summarize some of the information that we went over last week. I guess should be where we would like to see it. This year has been it's going in pretty good, right? The consumer's been spending, even in light of inflation. We've got GDP growth at 2.1% ending Q2. And our unemployment rate, which is the big one that's on the Fed's radar, is at 3.8% ending in September. Our PCE inflation, this is basically the inflation number, is at 3.5%. That's been actually ticking up. So I think we bottomed out at 3.4% in early August, and it has actually been ticking up. So what does that mean for rates? Most likely, the Fed's going to stick with their program of increasing rates to the end of the year. However, they may have a pause, and the pause will be due mainly to the Israeli-Hamas war that has just begun, and we might see prices go up, obviously in energy and some other consumer goods that obviously rely on oil. The federal funds rate is at 5.3%. So taking a look at the chart here, the federal funds rate was near zero, right? From like February, March of 2020, all the way to February, March of 2022. And then it really just shoots up. And we haven't seen this kind of increase in the federal funds rate since the early 80s. All right. So what does this mean for what the lenders are going to give you? So that is an important distinction, that what rate you get quoted right at the bank isn't necessarily the rate that the Fed comes out and says, here's what we set our federal funds rate at. And then they do that rate increase and everybody thinks the rates are going to go up immediately. That can happen, but they don't always move in tandem. Banks have a mind of their own and they might even lower rates depending on what their business model is. But typically, they are going to have to adjust their rates according to what the Fed is charging them for money, right? And we just hit about 7.5, 7.6 on that 30-year fixed rate mortgage. That's when you count for the margin that banks are going to charge us on average. However, the Mortgage News Daily Index, which is well tracked, has just hit 8%, which is it's an index that is tracks an average of many lenders. This is the first time it's hit 8% in 23 years. So rates are on the increase. And I predict, according to what several of our top analysts are saying, is that the Fed will probably pause in November when the FOMC meets. And then in December, they'll probably raise rates again. Going into 2024, it's anybody's guess, but the MBA, that's the Mortgage Bankers Association, is predicting that the housing market will be on the mend. So we'll probably see inflation continue to rise, but it'll probably moderate and we'll probably have a good latter half of 2024. And then 2025 is really the year that I think should be on everybody's radar. That is supposed to be a year where things really get back to maybe not normal, but home buying is really going to pick up and we're going to get out of this trough, if you will. Okay, that is the mortgage update. And we're going to now move over to our main segment, which is covering the home buyer transaction process. And we will turn this over to Kevin, who is our resident realtor, so he can summarize the transaction process as it relates to the buyer. Take it away, Kevin.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. There is a lot of agents will have what would be considered a buyer's roadmap or a pathway that they can provide for you. And they're similar in steps, but not all agents are created equal. And I pride myself on being one of the higher tier agents. So the first thing though, when you start your buying process is to go ahead and meet with a real estate professional. And the reason that this is important is because the homes that are listed on like Zillow or realtor.com is sometimes those homes show available to purchase, available for sale, but they're already under contract and the buyer will not actually be able to get into that house. So it's almost get your hopes up and the house isn't actually available. So when you meet with an agent, they give you access to homes that meet your qualifications. They're in the neighborhoods you want, the price range you're looking for, and they're readily for sale. And their list is updated a whole lot more often and more quickly than what Zillow, realtor.com, even Trulia has houses as well. And then once you meet with the agent, the next step that everybody recommends as a buyer is to go ahead and get pre-approved. Go see my buddy GT, get that paperwork started so you know what your budget is and you know what you can or can't do.
So,
No
Kevin, let me
reason to
jump
get,
in here real
yeah,
quick, if you
yeah,
don't
go ahead.
mind. So, I'm a buyer and I see real estate agent next to, say, somebody's profile. And then I see realtor in with a capital R. And it even has, I think, a little registered trademark symbol next to it. What is the difference?
The realtor with the capital R, the trademark, is held to a higher standard there. It's a part of the National Association of Realtors. So it's not mandatory for some areas, but it's just shows that your agent is held to a higher standard and actually it's voluntary. We're not forced into it, but we hold ourselves to a higher standard and just a little more professionalism that you would expect compared to someone that does not have that R next to their name.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, usually they have all the same tools available to them. It's just a little higher standard, a little more requirements of professional behaviors. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you. And then let's see, we're pre approved. And then the next step is we get to go shopping. You're going to get with your agent. You're going to identify what types of houses that you want to look at, what neighborhoods, if you want a ranch style, you want a condo, townhouse style, whatever you're looking for. This is the fun time when you get to go search for your house and find what you're looking for.
Is it necessary, Kevin, to go back to this, the pre-approval? Is it necessary to that I have spoken to an agent before I go with the lender? What if I walk into the bank and then I find out I'm pre-approved? I can still go and find any realtor I want at that point, right? There's those two can happen in any sequence. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like anytime you're going to go get a loan. If you want to go find out your budget first and then you go car shopping, you can do that. It's just when it comes to buying homes, most agents want to receive an offer of someone that is pre-approved. So it just makes your offer a little bit stronger, a little bit more commitment for their sellers to choose if there's a multiple offer situation for the sellers to choose your offer over somebody's else.
They want
Um,
that piece of paper in hand also so that they know that you're a serious buyer. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yes, yes, absolutely. Because they're not wasting time, but they have goals. They need to move on. They need to relocate or downsize, or they got a baby coming. They need to have that extra bedroom right away. It's really important for them to see that so they can move on with their financial goals as well, their real estate goals. And then that leads us into making an offer. So you'll sit down with your agent. You'll be like, you guys will discuss what you feel is a fair offer for the house. Maybe you're comfortable offering full value, or maybe you want to offer a little less and see if there's negotiations that can go on. But the pre-approval is definitely a important part of that offer that gets sent over to the other agent of the home sellers. That starts the negotiations and the contract phase of the transaction. And not everyone happens on the first try. Sometimes people want to negotiate upgrades or they want to negotiate the appraisal. So there's times when it goes back and forth several, two, three, four times between the agents before you settle on an agreed contract. And then
What
once that happens, oh, yeah, go ahead.
what role can the lender play at this juncture? For instance, if you're once the lender has created that pre-approval, it's really, hey, good luck, have fun, go shopping, find the home of your dreams. But
Right.
the lender at that point doesn't have to just wash his hands and just wait for that contract. They can still play a role there, right? Because sometimes if you're wanting to, let's say, have the best bargaining position, you may want a pre-approval that's set to the exact price of the home, correct? Or
Hmm.
at least you want to have a loan amount that is listed on there that's maybe a little closer to the purchase price. And I think just for our viewers and listeners here, Arizona requires a particular form, and it's called the AZ pre-qual form.
Hmm.
And on that, there's no place to put a purchase price.
Okay.
Technically, the seller really never knows if you're qualified for that purchase price. They just know the loan amount that you're qualified for, correct?
Now, there is communications back and forth from between the agents that stay between the agents because with that like you asked before, the realtor logo next to the name, there is some more information shared, but that is confidential. We're bound to being confidential and keeping people's private information private as much as possible through the home buying situation because financials are involved and not everybody wants everything out in the open. And that's how the negotiations work. Maybe you do submit an offer 40,000 low, And then the buyer comes back and says, hey, no, let's go 10,000 higher. So then you go back and forth. And then once all parties have agreed and signed it, either a wet signature or electronic signature, that's when we move into the next phase of being in the escrow. And this is when inspections take place, appraisals take place, and the home at this point is being held for the buyer.
What is the
There,
difference between an inspection and an appraisal?
oh, okay, gotcha, good. The appraisal goes about telling you how much the house is worth, what the bank feels that house is financially worth. An inspection will go through and identify discrepancies in the house. Say they find cracked roof tiles, the concrete slabs in the driveway are cracked, there's water stains in the ceiling. All these are things that indicate there could be a problem of some sort that the buyer is going to want to know what they're getting into. It'll be an inspection that will discover if there's termites or ants or just any other problems that the buyer may not want to take on. They, at that point during the inspection process, they can back out and then
So the
cancel.
inspection is for the buyer and the appraisal is for the lender, in essence.
Yes, yes. The appraisal is more towards the seller side of the deal, and the inspection is for the buyer. And the inspection also identifies things that the buyer may want the seller to fix or give them a credit. Be like, hey, we'll take care of the roof, but we need you to knock another couple thousand off the price. And then you go back into another negotiation period back and forth. And then you continue to move through the process.
So the
Now,
inspection is also a bargaining tool. And this is an
mhm,
important step, right? To where you're saying that they can go back and forth quite a bit at this point. And
yeah,
depending on what's wrong, what is discovered in
right.
the inspection, not the appraisal, right? The inspection, which is for the buyer
Mhm,
to basically it'll list all the whatever is wrong with house. And we're talking like what kind of
mhm.
things? What kind of things would the inspection reveal?
Anything material that the buyer may or may not want to take on and repair on their own getting into the house. So
Got it.
I it's similar to buying a used car. Most people don't buy a used car off Craigslist because they know nobody knows what's going on with that vehicle. You go to a dealership, you have some sort of idea that it's been looked over. So with the house, a professional comes in, checks it top to bottom, front to back, side to side, everything. And then they give a report, and that's made public to both sides. And then that can be used during the negotiations, of course. And also during this process, during this time, some agents working with the seller will encourage them to purchase a home warranty. And that is part of the process. So just in case during the process, the air conditioning goes out, then you have a backup to fix those high dollar items in between the negotiation process. So the transaction can move forward and everybody that backup plan, insurance, a home warranty for major items in the house.
Yeah, and maybe we can stop right here and also cover what is the real difference between a warranty and homeowner's insurance because there's questions on which policy cover. And I know Laurent, he's an insurance man and he's probably gotten these questions before. What is the difference between a warranty and a homeowner's insurance policy?
The thing about your home warranty is more things that could happen that's not accident. For example, my dishwasher just broke down. I'm going to claim. I want to call State Farm. It's either go ahead and replace it, right? That's not going to be covered. Right? That would fall more on your home warranty. That's more your maintenance. It could be your AC units that's broke down. It could be those kind of like your heat, or the heat just not working. That's going to fall under your home warranty, right? Now, if there is lightning with a heavy storm, lightning happens, hits your AC unit and actually damage the unit, now that's going to be under your homeowner's insurance, right? So anything that's weather related, it has to be to put a claim with your homeowner's insurance. You have to some type of incident, right? Something happened for my damage to occur. If that makes sense.
Anything outside of the normal wear and tear, you're
That's right.
saying? Oh,
That's
got it.
anything fire damage, water damage, pipe burst. That's going to be a cover under your warranty. And we're talking homeowners insurance. Any damages occurring to your structure, right? For example, I have irrigation system that is putting water out on my yard. Water comes into my home. Unless you have the specific coverage for that, you will not be covered under your regular homeowner's insurance because that occurred outside of the home into the house, if that makes sense. But you have to have some type of irrigation pipe system or service line coverage, which is available. If you have a service line coverage, I would recommend to look at if you have an irrigation system so that you do have the proper coverage for those kind of damages.
And both these services can be purchased at a reasonable amount of
Oh,
money at a monthly rate.
oh yeah. You're talking probably $1.50 a month to get that coverage. Very inexpensive. Again, it's just very important that you do have, again, those kind of coverage.
And a warranty is comparable, right, to insurance in terms of the monthly fee.
Yep. Correct. Correct. Things to think about. What's excluded? What is excluded on your homeowner's insurance? What are we not going to cover? War. Anything that's to do with war, not going to be covered. A nuclear disaster. Flood. Flood is now also covered. Earthquake. Irregular, like you said, your wear and tear. Rust, mold, anything intentional acts. So if you say, you know what, I'm done with my mortgage. I want to go ahead and put my house on fire. That's probably not going to be covered. You may end up ending up going to jail and on top of that, still owing for your mortgage. Government action could be tax purposes, right? Could be government. Those are going to be excluded as well.
I was going to say it's important from a lending perspective to also know that the homeowner's insurance is part of usually your mortgage payment. It's good to think of it as not just principal and interest, which would be the loan portion, but your taxes and insurance, we call it PITI, are part of the mortgage calculation. HOA is also part of it. That's PITIA, PITIA. However, a warranty does not fall under your normal mortgage payment. So it won't be escrowed or anything like that. And your warranty can be, even though it's purchased and you're making that monthly payment, they'll never include that as part of your mortgage payment.
That's something that the home seller does as an additional product to take care of their house while they're going through the process of selling it, just to make sure that there's no extra damages and additional high dollar items that need to be repaired.
And you're saying that the warranty will be covered during the process, but you can purchase a warranty well beyond that period. Like you can pay a monthly fee to have yourself covered indefinitely, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's indefinite, but as long as you're paying for it, you can have one. I think the contracts are typically 6 to 12 months in length. And some sellers, they will go ahead and purchase a 12-month home warranty, pay it up front, and then just transfer it with the house to the new buyer. They can't take it with them to their other house. So that's a concession that sellers can make to make their house also more attractive, just like how a buyer can make their offer more attractive to where everybody is being taken care of moving forward in the process. And then after we get through all of this, we're going to prepare for closing day well, let me back up. Through this whole process, actually, once we get the pre-approval and we get an offer in, then they have to work on getting the money completely finalized at this point. And that typically goes through the whole process. of getting the loan, getting completely approved, and all those details finalized. Typically, what is the time frame on that, GT? Is there some people move quicker than others, I'm sure, but is there an average time that people can expect?
Yeah, so this is a tough one because people take different measurements, right?
Mhm.
So from there's the timeline that somebody has for buying a home, and they may say, "I want to look over the next 2 to 3 months," right? So the time they talk to a realtor to the time they get the keys moving the home, it could be any length of time. When most
Right.
people say how long it takes to close a deal, like when you hear that colloquially, like how long does it take to close a transaction? That's typically 30 to 45 days. The average, I believe Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac do publish these durations, and it's typically like between 40 and 45 days. And so you can expect about 30 days if people are doing their job and everybody is hitting their goals in the process. Now you can break that down even further to basically there's contract to close date and or there is underwriting submission. So your initial submission to underwriting. So as a lender, we have different measurements. So the time from the contract to the close date is what usually would be considered that 30 to 45 days. However, when you hear, oh, 10-day closes, usually what that means is the initial submission to an underwriter to the time that you get what's called clear to close or a loan
Mhm.
approval. So you'll hear a CTC, clear to close. That's the same thing as your loan is approved. You're now able to go to your closing and sign your documents. I want to distinguish different terminology as well. Most lenders call basically the day you get your keys the funding date. So the close date is usually aligned with the funding date. And I won't get into wet states versus dry states, but suffice to say, Arizona is a dry state. And so typically what you'll do is you probably will not sign and fund the same day, even though that is possible. Typically what will happen is you'll sign, let's say on a Wednesday, and then you'll be picking up your keys on Thursday because title and escrow has had enough time to basically get a lot of what's called post close conditions completed. So these are prior to funding PTF conditions done. That's usually in the escrow officer's lane. And then get all the wire transfers made, and then record with the county recorder. And then typically the realtor will be meeting the buyer at the house to hand over the keys. So that can happen in the same day, though. Usually you would have to do this in the morning before the wire cutoff, meaning you go
Mhm.
sign in the AM, you could potentially fund in the PM and do a same day close. But realtors call this instead of funding date, they're just going by close of escrow date or the
Mhm.
close date. And so when you see COE on your documents as a buyer or seller, close of escrow means basically the funding date of when all money is dispersed and the property has been recorded with
Right.
the new owner and that the keys can now be handed over to the new owner.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then there's a lot of steps and a lot of forms that go through between the once you enter into escrow and the closing funding day. And that's one reason that agents are here is we help be the mediator between all of these other people that are involved and get the documents and keep everything organized and guide the process through. It's the buyer and seller's transaction. We're here to help guide from start to finish to signing the closing documents, funding, getting your keys, and moving on in. That's the role that a realtor has in this whole process.
I would like to add that legally, the fastest you can actually close a deal, if you will, is 8 days. It just has to do if there's financing involved. And then it has to do with cooling off periods for both your loan estimate and your closing disclosure. Ah, closed on my new home. There we go.
Yep.
Nice.
And then your agent will want to take a fancy picture like this and get some shameless promotion on social media and send it out to you and your family.
Absolutely. That's the best part, right? Is when your client moves into their new home and everybody gets to get all those great selfies and, as you stated, the shameless promotional material.
Absolutely.
So, Kevin, is that everything?
Yeah, yeah, that is in a nutshell, start to finish. There's a lot of other details that go on, of course. This was just a brief overview of the major steps along the way. But in a nutshell, that is the buyer's roadmap, the pathway to a new home ownership.
Very nice. And just to summarize, so you've got meet with a real estate professional, right?
Yep.
Either a real estate agent or a realtor with capital R. They're both the same, but capital R realtors have, as you stated, they may be a bit of a cut above the rest and are committed to their profession. Two,
Correct.
meet with a lender and get pre-approved. And that could be a bank, that could be a mortgage broker who will be like your personal shopper. So they're going to find you the best rate. And it may be the first and last person you have to meet in terms of the financing, and you won't have to shop around. After the pre approval, you're going to go back to your realtor, give that to them. Now they know that you're a serious buyer and you're going to go shopping for homes. That
Yep.
process can take, or that timeline could take any number of hours, days, months, depending on how the home market is, obviously. Then once you found the home of your dreams, you're going to make an offer. Let's say it's accepted right then and there. You're then going to put some earnest money down to show that
Yep.
you want that house as a deposit. You're going to order the inspection. You're going to order
Mhm.
the appraisal. And then the lender in the meantime is going to be processing your loan. The title and escrow are going to call you in once that loan is approved to sign your documents. And then once the loan is funded, right, and the title is recorded with the county, you are going to give them the keys to their home, usually right at their new house, correct?
Yeah, yeah, that's usually the way it is, depending on if it's a brand new builder or a resale. We meet at the house and pass them off, and then we get the really big key.
Very nice. Okay. Yeah. And thanks for that very elaborate walkthrough, Kevin. That was actually a tour de force. So that's a wrap, folks. If you have any questions about the Phoenix housing market or the home buying transaction process, please reach out to us using the links below. And please don't forget to click the like button and smash that subscribe button as well. This is GT signing off from Valley Home Vibes.
Have a
Right.
good one, guys.
Good one. This is Laurent signing off as well. Have a good one.
Take care, everyone.